All right, man, peace. So the Boston Celtics legend, Paul Pierce, finally had his much ballyhooed jersey raising to the rafters. And of course, there had to be some form of drama or theatricality because that championship team was full of drama and theatricality. As we all know, much has been made of the separation, the disintegration of the relationship between Ray Allen and the rest of the members of that team. And once again, it was a story. So, of course, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
It wasn't just like any relationship. If you're going to last a long time, you got to get through the rocky moments.
I agree.
It's going to be ups and downs, and we definitely had our rocky moments. You guys were behind me like none other. When guys come to play here and they go somewhere else, they're like, no fans are like Boston.
You were a brilliant player. You were a clutch player, Paul. And more importantly, you know what you are? You're a Celtic and you're a champion.
Paul was definitely a clutch player. He's one of the great clutch players of his era.
Congrats, Paul! His retirement ceremony, we just heard him there, number 34 in the Raptors.
Oh, it's Rafters, not Raptors. Now, I'm happy for Paul because, to me, Paul comes off as a side chick who finally got the ring. He spent most of his career in Kobe Bryant's shadow, in Shaq's shadow, and even in Steve Nash's shadow for a while. He was in Kevin Garnett's shadow until Kevin finally teamed up with him. He's in Vince Carter's shadow. He was in Tracy McGrady's shadow. Paul Pierce is definitely a Hall of Famer, but for the majority of his era, which came from the end of the 90s all the way through the 2000s, he was viewed as a B-level superstar. Also, he was in Allen Iverson's shadow. Let me not forget that. But he was finally able to get some of his just due when he won the championship in 2008. And he seems to be basking in the sunlight of getting some attention from getting this jersey raised to the rafters. That's part of the reason why he got so emotional over Isaiah Thomas. And I'm happy that he shut that down because Isaiah Thomas did not deserve any of the attention that he was begging for. He looked ridiculous. And to be quite frank with you, I think that he was trying to sabotage indirectly Paul Pierce's jersey raising by trying to make the Celtics feel guilty about trading him.
There's former teammates in the crowd. We had Kevin Garnett, Rajon Rondo in attendance, as well as his former coach, of course, Doc Rivers. But a notable absentee gentleman from the ceremony, that would be Ray Allen.
I don't think that Ray Allen was noticeably absent. I just think that Ray Allen was being true to himself. I'd rather a person not go to a ceremony like that if he truly cannot garner up any positive feeling for the person that the ceremony is supposed to be executed for. If he does not like Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce and Rajon Rondo, why should he be there? To put on a show for the sports media? Makes no sense. Besides that, Ray Allen has his own problems to deal with. He's still dealing with the aftermath of allegedly being catfished by a homosexual on the internet.
But we know where he was because he posted on Instagram that he was out golfing with his pal George Lopez on Sunday. The real story is, why is this man still on Instagram? Because we all know what went down with that catfishing. But Stephen A. will stay focused here.
Well, you know what, Molly? That's for me to mention. That's not for you to mention on national television. Maybe you're trying to embarrass him because he was, quote unquote, a basketball player or a celebrity who was associated with, quote unquote, infidelity. And we know how many of these modern day liberal females like to call out men for alleged infidelity, even though they're sleeping with Larry, Tom, Dick, Harry, Benjamin, and everybody else. As I noted in the previous segment, Will King was definitely giving her the eye, and I don't think that was for no reason, but I'll leave that alone for now. But mentioning the whole catfishing incident, that's something for people like myself or video makers on YouTube to bring up. That's not for national television. So I think that was a bit unprofessional on her part.
Should Allen have been at the ceremony supporting Paul?
Yes, he should have. Unless Paul Pierce specifically reached out to him and told him he did not want him there.
Okay.
That is the only way that he should not have been there.
Well, look, I'm a believer that you go to functions that you're expressly invited to. I don't believe that Ray was invited, so I don't have a problem with him not showing up. And with the way that Kevin Garnett and Rajon Rondo tend to carry themselves, there was a possibility that they may have attempted to be disrespectful towards Ray Allen, and a situation may have developed that would have taken some of the positive energy away from Paul Pierce's jersey being lifted up into the rafters.
Barring that, he should have been there. They won a championship together. They were the big three.
Yeah, but you know what, Steve? Sometimes you have a great relationship with someone and it disintegrates, and it's best that you go east and they go west. Nostalgia is nice, but nostalgia is oftentimes just the romanticization of things that occurred in the past. And sometimes it's best to leave things in the past. We can romanticize things now. We can look back longingly for memories that sometimes we tend to glamorize a little bit inordinately. At the end of the day, Ray Allen helped Paul Pierce as much as Paul Pierce helped Ray Allen. They had a great team in 2008, even though they probably had the most tumultuous playoff run of any great team that I could think of. I believe that they had 3 7-game series, if I remember correctly. I know they went 7 against Atlanta, and I think they went 7 against another team. Oh, yeah, they went 7 against Cleveland. I think that they went 6 against Detroit and 6 against L.A. If I'm incorrect there, one of you brothers can correct me. But I think, now that I'm going through it, I think that they had 2 7-game series and 2 6-game series.
Some would say LeBron instigated it, where LeBron and his people would tell you Boston instigated it when the 3 were paired together back in 2008. Some would say it's the Big Four, obviously, because Rondo proved at that particular moment in time that he was just as integral a part of their championship team as the rest of them were.
Well, in 2008, I would say that they instigated the creation of the super team, because that had not been done, not since 2004 when the Lakers tried to do it, or I should say 2003. But in regards to a consensus, the basketball aficionados consider the Lakers' attempt at a super team by bringing in Gary Payton and Karl Malone, just them trying to reinvigorate their lineup by bringing in 2 future Hall of Famers, but players who were certainly past their prime. The 2007 Celtics were viewed as players coming together who were at the very end of their prime to make one run, and hopefully a couple of other runs after that. But I would certainly not consider Rajon Rondo a part of their core in the 07-08 season. Now, in the 2010 season, he became a major factor. But unfortunately, his jump shot still was not there, and they should have beat the Lakers in 2010.
But Ray Allen is one of the greatest shooters in NBA history. He is class personified in most instances. There's no denying that. And whatever friction existed wasn't with Paul. If this were Kevin Garnett, I wouldn't blame him, because Kevin Garnett was cold as ice to him. Once you left us, you left us. And I really don't think it's that Ray Allen left. I think it's that he went to Miami. They were the enemy at that time. And going to the enemy, I got to tell you, I would be salty about that.
Yeah, well, you would have to get over it. You'd have to drink some water and try to lower your salt content, because the Boston Celtics tried to trade him repeatedly throughout that season, and they benched him at one point for Avery Bradley. So everyone involved has to get over that. It'd be one thing if he was starting and he was the star player and then he left and went to Miami. Like, I could understand to a certain degree on a professional level the vitriol that a Russell Westbrook has for Kevin Durant. I can understand that. But for Ray Allen, his team, the Boston Celtics at the time, did not want him anymore. Doc Rivers was starting to marginalize him, and he decided to make a move. So once again, I have no problem with players utilizing their freedom and their mobility. That's what understanding commerce is all about. When you're a professional basketball player, that's exactly what that means. You are a professional. Utilize whatever liberties you have to maximize your earning potential and go to the best location. I don't give a damn if you clean windows. If another corporation says we want you to clean windows for us and we have a better location, we're going to give you more vacation time and a higher salary, you're going to go. So it is what it is.
That, particularly if I offered you more money, which Boston did offer him more money than Miami at the time, and you left. As much as I love South Beach, you leave me to go to the heated enemy, the rivalry? No.
Well, if they wanted to offer him so much money, why did they want to trade him during the season, Stephen A? Why did they bench him for Avery Bradley or platoon him for Avery Bradley? That was an insult to a future Hall of Famer.
No way I would let that go. but Kevin Garnett was cold as ice to him. He didn't have the greatest relationship with Rondo when he was there. But if you recognize Paul Pierce, even though those are his brothers, Kendrick Perkins, KG, Rondo, Paul Pierce was on the record saying, we need to come together. We don't need to be as acerbic and as abrasive about this stuff, etc., etc. I just didn't like the way he left. Whereas Kevin Garnett, and then we're like, damn it, he left. Period.
Yeah, well, here's the problem with Kevin Garnett. And I did a video about that a long time ago called 5 Bitches Attack Ray Allen. And or 5 Hoes Attack Ray Allen. Either way, same sentiment. They need to move past that. Because it wasn't like you guys was all drafted to the Boston Celtics 15 years ago and y'all played your whole careers together. You were all basically mercenaries. You came together like the A-team to accomplish a certain mission. It was accomplished. That was that. It's like you go to the playground for one game, your homeboys on your team. The next game, y'all going against each other. It's not that big a deal. All that loyalty shit, loyalty is for off the court. Loyalty is for your family. Loyalty is for your trusted friends, people in your inner circle. It's not for the NBA. That stuff is fictional. It amazes me that people get caught up in that nonsense.
If it were Kevin Durant or Rondo, I would not have blamed him because of the way Garnett acted and his relationship with Rondo was not good. But as it pertains to Paul Pierce, there is no reason on earth why Ray Allen should not have been there.
I'm not surprised that Ray Allen and Rondo have relationship issues. They both have similar personalities. They're a bit introverted, highly intellectual. When two people like that clash, they tend not to move past it. They tend not to get over it. So I'm not surprised by that. Now, Paul Pierce is a little bit more extroverted. No disrespect, a little more simple-minded, a little more fun-loving. He's more likely to get past low slights. Introverts who are highly intellectual tend to be people who hold grudges. And then you have people like Kevin Garnett who who thinks that he's a knight in the medieval era where he's fighting for empires and stuff like that. Like he's ready to die on his sword.
There's just no excuse for it.
Well, we agree about if Paul Pierce reached out to him specifically and said, don't come.
Sure.
Okay. But that's the reason you wouldn't show up in that case is because it's the other guy's day. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you got to show up.
Right.
There have been times in my life, Stephen, like there are big events in people's lives. There are weddings, a parent's funeral or something like that. And I've had close friends and even family, and I'm working a fight that night. There's nothing I can do.
Right.
Pay-per-view fight, I have to work.
Yes.
I can't.
You ain't Instagram being on a golf course.
But by the way, they still
Yeah,
have...
that makes it worse.
By the way,
No, it doesn't make it worse. It just makes it his decision. At the end of the day, and there's no disrespect to Paul Pierce, I'm sure that him having his jersey raised to the rafters had great significance for him. But it wasn't like they're commemorating the 2008 championship Celtics. Now, if that were the case, then I could see it a little bit differently. But Ray Allen seems to be someone who just likes to stay out of the limelight and is not looking for any trouble. And when you're dealing with wild card niggas like Rajon Rondo and Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen's 40 plus years old. He's a family man. He's not trying to get into no back and forth verbal altercation in the crowd. Niggas talking slick, all type of dumb shit. You know how emotional some of these, no disrespect, some of these brothers can get when they quote unquote don't like you or they have an issue with you. So Ray Allen most likely said, you know what, bump all this. If anything, I'll text Paul, say congratulations, and that's that. I'm gonna go out golfing and then take my family out to eat, and then, when my wife go to sleep, get back on Instagram, see if I can find me another tranny or some shit. I don't know.
the way I can tell them that, I understand, and they still have hard feelings about it, and I know they do, and I don't blame them. I would too. You can understand it intellectually and still feel it emotionally, like, damn it, you figure out a way to be there.
The way you are about that with weddings and all that, I'm that way about funerals.
Yeah, but now please, Stephen, and once again, please look at what you're comparing to a jersey being lifted up to the rafters. You're talking about weddings and funerals with friends and close family. I don't think that Ray Allen likes them anymore, and I don't think he cares if they like him. They're always talking about him. He's not talking about them. There are certain people in life like a Ray Allen who's just good. Like when they say I'm good, they mean that. Like, I'm good. It's okay. We don't have to speak anymore. We lived our life. We made our memories. When I watch classic sports or the NBA TV and they show Game 5 or Game 6 of the 2008 finals, I'll sit back with, my popcorn and my water, and I'll watch it and say, okay, that was great. I don't need to get together with the guys and go bowling every year and talk shit about what happened. I'm good. There's certain people like that. And you have to be mature enough to deal with different personality types.
With what I've been through, just going to a funeral it's wretched for me. So I get where you come from.
Yeah, you have to do, and especially it's like a test of character. You're not feeling good about that guy. That guy did you wrong, but it's an important day, and physically you can be there. You should be there if you can be there, because it's about the other person. And it's hard for me to believe Paul Pierce does not strike me as the type of guy in the interactions I've had with him that would tell someone don't show up. Garnett, right, it strikes people that way.
You think it makes it worse, though, that he puts it on Instagram and that he's golfing with a celebrity?
No, because I don't think that he did it on purpose. I think that he put it on Instagram because he just happened to be there with a friend of his. Who knows, maybe they were making a business deal. Maybe he's in the process of trying to market a certain product and George Lopez is going to help him. We live in the social media age where everyone wants to get into everyone's business. Maybe Ray Allen's world no longer revolves around basketball. From what I understand, he has a series of health food stores, or I think health drink stores, a franchise that he's trying to promote. Who knows? Either way, if his life is revolving around other things, should he feel like he has to be present for a ceremonial jersey being lifted up to the rafters? I just don't think so. Because quite frankly, I don't think that he's close with them guys anymore. And that happens in life.
Ray Allen here is the smaller man, and he had a chance to be the bigger man.
Well, not just that.
Well, I don't know how you can make that assertion when you don't truly know the parameters around which he decided to stay where he was at. Who knows? He might be totally tapped out of the NBA world and didn't even know that the jersey was getting lifted to the rafters today. I think that's why you have to do your due diligence and ask.
Just that. Ray Allen might have had a couple of rings in his career. He never won a ring until he got with Paul Pierce.
Yes, and Paul Pierce never won a ring until he got Ray Allen.
And KG.
And KG the same thing. KG never won shit until he got Paul Pierce and Ray Allen. All he did was talk shit out in the Western Conference for about 15 years. I think that he was with the Timberwolves from the 95-96 season to the 06-07 season. So that was 12 years that he was out there with the Timberwolves and never won shit. No disrespect. One of the great power forwards / centers of all time. Never won a damn thing until all three of them teamed up. So not one of them individually owes anything to the other, because that was a triumvirate for real. And the great thing about those guys was they were all tough-minded and they were all clutch performers. They should have won more than one championship. They should have won at least two. Unfortunately for them, Garnett got hurt in 2009. But 2010, they should have won. They just ran out of gas at the end.
And the point is that part of the reason you became a champion was because of that guy that had his number retired last
was
night.
The star on that team.
Right.
And the kind of score...
I say he was the lead player on that team because he had the most tenure. Star on that team was Garnett. He was the captain of the team. He was the captain of the defense. Him and Rondo really were the orchestrators of the offense. But because Ray Allen was so cerebral and knew how to get his shots, and his offensive game was so diversified where he could go from being a player who, for the most part, got his own shot in Seattle to a player who became a catch-and-shoot player with the Boston Celtics, knew how to find little gaps in the defense, understood the nuances of the Boston offense, and always seemed to get a wide-open look in clutch moments. That's what made that team very memorable.
Scorer he was, from a distance, you might say,
Special.
He's not going to want to give up touches like that to really integrate with these two other guys.
Right.
They were so selfless on that team.
Right.
That was a big three. That was only that wasn't a big three like the way we've come to know it. They had to make real sacrifices.
Be clear.
I agree with that.
They may very well be going into the Hall of Fame together one day. Ray Allen and Paul Pierce and KG, they're Hall of Famers. Make no mistake about that. And so because of it, knowing that each of you won your first title together.
Try only title, Steve. I'm trying to figure out what is in Stephen A. Smith's coffee that he's making such asinine statements. Ray Allen and Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett are Hall of Famers. Make no mistake, but no shit. It's obvious that all three of those guys are Hall of Famers, Stephen A. Smith. And no, they did not win their first titles together. They won their only title together.
It's not like, D-Wade had a title before LeBron arrived in Miami. Okay, Shaq had titles before D-Wade. He arrived with D-Wade in Miami.
Also a big deal.
Won a title together.
It was also a big deal in Boston. The Celtics had this great history, but the vast majority of the greatness occurred in the pre-modern era, when the game did not resemble and the teams did not resemble what we've come to know as the NBA. In that era, they have only 4 championships, 3 of them with Bird and McHale.
People have to understand something, though, and I get a lot of so-called basketball fans that come on my channel and try to denigrate Bill Russell. And yes, he did play before what we consider the modern era of NBA basketball. But just consider this. Bill Russell retired in 1969, not 1949, not 1959. He's not George Mikan. I mean, you figure like this. Michael Jordan retired in 2004. It's now 2018. Okay? So it's been 14 years. The difference between Bill Russell's retirement and Magic Johnson getting drafted is only 10 years. They were only 10 years apart. People act like Bill Russell played in the Stone Age, like they were running up and down the court barefoot with a loincloth on. That's not what it was. Bill Russell could play today. He would dominate today. He was a mixture of Kevin Garnett and Dennis Rodman. I say that all the time. There's a reason why Boston never won anything before he got there, and they didn't win anything for 5 years after he left. You have to give that man some respect. I get people coming on here talking about Kobe Bryant over Bill Russell. Give me a fucking break. Bill Russell won 11 titles, led the team to 11 titles. Even if you want to grade his titles on a curve and say that each title only counts as half, he still has 5.5 titles. Okay? So, I mean, it is what it is. Give the man his respect.
The only championship they've won since then is with these 3 guys. And by the way, you take that championship away and people are like, the Celtics are ancient history. Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Like, that was an important title to win.
I love the fact that Ray Allen was in Miami. I really did, because it was special to watch all of them together. But I hated the fact that he left Boston to go there.
I didn't. That's part of life. That's part of the NBA drama, the NBA theater. That's what makes the NBA so exciting, is that stars go to rival teams and it interests people for the next season. Because let's be quite frank, going into every NBA season, there's only about 4 to maybe 5 teams that have a real chance of winning an NBA championship. So they need that little intrigue of different players moving here and there. The Paul George is moving. Where is he going to go? And where is LeBron going to go? And they need that as subtext. Because in the NFL, you know the Patriots are going to be in the mix. But other than that, you don't know who else is going to be in the mix in the NFL. So they don't really need to have big free agency moves in the NFL to garner attention. The NBA needs that.
I mean, because again, that was your enemy. That was your enemy. It's not quite the equivalent of Isaiah and Jordan switching teams or something like that. But damn it, that was your enemy.
No, sir. That was just a basketball opponent. That's all that was. They were not enemies. It's not some gang set. And that's the problem. A lot of these fans talk all that shit. But you know what? Had the Boston Celtics traded Ray Allen and brought a better player in, no one would have said that the Boston Celtics betrayed Ray Allen.
Pierce was the one.
I understand KG's feelings.
Yeah. He was the one more than any other who had to put his ego aside because he was the great player on the Celtics.
No, he had no ego to put aside. No disrespect to Paul Pierce, but he was drafted in what, 1999, 98, 99, I believe it was 1999. By 2007, he was a player who was entering the end of his prime. And he needed a couple of stars to come to Boston to help him out. It was no sacrifice. Either he was going to know his place and allow these other great players to fit in seamlessly, or he was going to retire without a championship. That's what his options were.
The guys were coming to join him, and he did it beautifully, and because of that, they meshed and won a championship.
He did it because he knew he needed them.
No question.
Ray Allen should have been there yesterday.
And he needs to stay out of his DMs and get off the gram.
Yeah, well, you know what? Ray Allen could come back and say, you need to keep your legs closed in front of Will Cain. All right? That's not your place to come on TV talking about Instagram. A lot of these liberal women, they love to get on TV and talk all type of crazy. And then when somebody says something about them and their whore antics, they want to run to HR and run to the media and run to social media, talk about misogyny and chauvinism. Stay in your fucking place and talk about basketball. Okay? That's your job on ESPN. Now, it's my job as a so-called black man to tell Ray Allen to stay away from being catfished like a jackass on Instagram. That's my job. That's not your job. All right? Your job is to be the lead moderator on First Take. Make sure that Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman don't talk beyond their time. Not to act like you actually care about Ray Allen, because you don't. You're just talking shit. But anyway, peace.